And what were your guesses then? This is where we left off. So, those two main reasons for population decline here in Costa Rica, I'm pretty sure some of you guys guessed the right answer, and they are deforestation along with the illegal poaching for the pet trade. So we're going to address those in some more detail. So what we see here is the very rich, biodiverse, ancient forest that once upon a time the whole of Costa Rica was covered in. But unfortunately, by the 1960s, we saw the removal of over 50% of Costa Rica's forest. Brought about due to the rise in the fast food industry, it became highly profitable to graze cattle to export beef into the United States and over into Europe. So you can see here from this photograph, it's not an ideal location for macaws. They had to fly even further to find food and suitable nesting sites, but unfortunately by the 1980s we saw this get worse. It became less profitable for cattle ranching, but it became more profitable for the likes of monocultures. These are single-use plantations, and this type of farming is a lot worse. So you can see from this image that they're taking down much larger, vast areas of forest to plant a single crop. But also in comes the use of pesticides, and this is really the downfall here. So Costa Rica is a four-fronted country in so many ways when we look at environmental legislation. But they really do have just a few downfalls, and one of those is that pesticide usage. Here in Costa Rica, they use 4 times as many chemical pesticides than they do in the United States. So these grounds are truly toxic. And when the macaws are having to fly even further to find food sources, they're forced down to those toxic grounds to find food. But what are they planting? The number one plantation today is for pineapple. Today we see over 150,000 acres of pineapple plantation in Costa Rica. Over 85% of the imported pineapple in the USA is from Costa Rica, and 44% of that is from this video right here, in that northeast area of Costa Rica, correlating with that great green macaw population stronghold. So you can see the link in the increase of pineapple and the decline in wildlife, including those macaws. But it's no longer just the wildlife that's suffering over there. Since 2007, the communities have been drinking water from tankers since 2007. Sorry, I'm repeating myself. Yeah, so they've been drinking water from tankers since 2007 because of the wash away of those chemical pesticides. Their surface and their groundwater is completely polluted. And there's one more reason for deforestation per se, and this is this specific tree species. This is the mountain almond tree, otherwise referred to as the tree of life, and that's because over 1,000 different animals rely on it. But for the great green macaw, this is their best friend, and that's because they use this tree for over 90% of their nest sites, and over 85% of their diet comes from this tree. So unfortunately, when we saw the loss and removal of over 85% of these from Costa Rica, you can understand how detrimental that will be to their populations. It was specifically sought after for its wood. It's a very good quality hard wood, and it's also termite resistant. So you can understand why people would spend thousands of dollars to build their houses out of this. But fortunately, in 2007, we saw the protection of this species, so we are working on the recovery. But unfortunately, it's a slow-growing tree, and it can be seen to live for over 650 years. So even with the protection and recovery, this is going to be slow. They can take over 25 years just to reach fruit and provide that food source for the macaws, but they can take longer than that to reach the size where they provide nesting cavities for macaws. Macaws are lazy nest makers. They do not build their own nests. They nest inside of cavities in trees, and these cavities need to be at least 1 meter deep. So you can understand how big a tree needs to be before it simply provides an empty space of over 1 meter. But with your support today, we have already started our own replantation of these. So, hopefully, one day in the future, the mountains of Costa Rica will blossom into pink flowers as those mountain almonds come to bloom again. It was once said that fishermen returning home to Costa Rica knew they were back to their country when they saw those mountains blossoming into pink flower. So like I say, in the next 25 to 50 years, with your support, hopefully this should be what Costa Rica's mountains look like again. This connects us to that second problem, that illegal poaching for the pet trade though, and this is just one example. What we see here in this image is over 300 blue-fronted Amazon parrots. They were seized at the border of Venezuela. Yes, these are not macaws, but it's just one example. Over 2/3 of the world's parrot populations are threatened due to the illegal wildlife trade. This is just one example. And in this photo, we see those 300 individuals, and every single one of those is younger than 3 months old. This means that it's 100% reliant on its parents. So on top of that, being squashed into all of these unsanitary, unfriendly circumstances for who knows how long to cross international borders, comes a 90% mortality rate. But a poacher can sell an individual bird from anything from $2,000 to $20,000. So you can understand there's a very simple incentive to go straight back into the wild and take more birds. But with your support, we provide a refuge for these animals, and we are helping the laws and the legal systems here in Costa Rica implement this law. This has always been illegal, but the authorities never had anywhere to take those birds. So by providing a refuge and working with authorities, today we are seeing the international borders of Costa Rica strengthen. But unfortunately, this links us to the local pet trade, and this is much harder to monitor. Here what we see, this is Pepper. She's a great green macaw, and she was found in a workshop in Nicaragua. Unfortunately, what we see from this photo is how sad and lonely and distressed she is. This bright red face and those ruffled up feathers are a sign of loneliness and sadness. Also, unfortunately, what's common in the pet trade is the intentional breaking of their wings so they cannot fly or escape. For Pepper, this was the case, which meant she spent an unnatural amount of time on the ground, and she came into contact with a life-changing amount of parasites. This caused her tail feathers to rot away, to the point where, unfortunately, they will never be able to grow back. But, on a positive note, the silver lining, she was rescued, and she's now living in a facility very similar to ours. She draws light to the birds we have in our facility here, those unreleasable birds rescued from the pet trade. That now we've developed a wonderful project, and what you're helping us do is make a life worth living for those wild and those captive macaws. So this is where our 4 pillars of conservation come in. But again, this is where I'm going to leave it with you guys today, and I hope you guys log in next time to check out some more information about these 4 pillars. So thank you very, very much. Please leave any comments or questions down below, and we can discuss those as well. Thank you very much. See you soon.